I also want to talk about what the sister shared with me concerning the Pope. And of course, because it's tied in with Ibrahim Traore, and you know that I believe that he is a man of the time. This is he is his name is household name right now in the world. And so the sister sent this to me. But let's listen to this because so the question was asked. So this is the Pope reading from his response to, this is what they say, to Ibrahim Traore's letter to him. I don't know whether Ibrahim Traore wrote a letter to him or not, but this is supposed to be his response to it. I've heard people say that Ibrahim Traore wrote letters to the Pope. You know, I am yet to prove that that is so, but this is his supposed response to the letter. And and I want to start at where he's responding to Traore's question as to how will this papacy be different. And I'm not going to play all of it, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute, and then I'm going to come back and comment on it. All right, but just listen. All right, let's hear the Pope.
You asked, will this papacy be different? And to that I reply, not only will it be different, it must be. For too long the African voice has been heard only in whispers. Your leaders have been praised only when they were pliable, and demonized when they dared to defy unjust systems. Your resources have been extracted while your people were left to scavenge what was theirs to begin with. But Africa is not a charity case. Africa is not a patient waiting for the West to administer spiritual or political anesthesia. Africa is the cradle of courage, the wellspring of song, the pulse of prophecy. It is not the world's burden, it is its teacher. Let me speak plainly, as you did, President Trias, on colonial legacy. President Trias.
All right, I'm just going to break it here a little bit. So if you notice that it is referring to he's referring to President Traore as Trias, President Trias. Now this is a Pope that is an American and speaks many languages. In fact, I heard an interview with his brother, and his brother said that he speaks many languages fluently, and yet he doesn't know how to say Ibrahim Traore. So I think that this is AI, okay? Because it says Trias right there. Doesn't know how to say his name. But anyways, let's continue.
Traore, you spoke of chains not only of those that bound the bodies of our ancestors, but the invisible ones that still clutch at the soul of Africa. Let us speak truth, not as adversaries, but as men burdened with memory. Colonialism was not simply a political conquest, it was a spiritual betrayal. It was not just the theft of land, but the attempted erasure of identity. Entire.
All right, so remember the question was, how will this papacy be different, or will this papacy be different? And we're now 2 minutes into the reply, and I've not heard yet how he says the papacy is going to be different. What he's doing is this is platitudes, right? He's just rehearsing and repeating things that are already known. I can tell you, family, one way that you can know when you're speaking to an AI, it will just repeat the same thing to you that you have already known, but it will never advance the argument, right? And it will never reason like a person would. It will give you just this long paragraph of repeating facts that you already know, but it never answers your question. How will the papacy be different? And it talks about how that it was not only political, but it was also spiritual betrayal, and how that they stole not only land, but civilizations and identities. Never ever will he ever say, and I listened to this almost all of it. Oh, it's about 30 minutes or so. Never said who the people are that were stolen. Never tell you who their identity was, and the papacy knows because the papacy has in its archives. We talked about that the last time. 53 miles under the Vatican of all the artifacts and all the treasures and all the books and all the histories of all the people that they've stolen. And he never said who those people are. And he never said what the papacy will do differently. Never said it. He just continued to repeat the things about Africa and about the stolen land and about the stolen wealth and about the colonization. And that this and he says that the church should never be neutral in this matter. The church should never be neutral. But he never said what the church will actually do. And you can listen to the whole thing. Traore, ask him a question again. Okay, I mean, according to this, ask him another question. What will the church do? And he said that the church has to condemn these things, and the church has to call evil by its right name. You know, the church should say, "Oh, what you're doing there is evil." You know, this is one of the things I noticed about the Edomites, and this man is an Edomite, and the papacy is the spiritual arm of Edom. But they will admit, they will say to you, how terrible it is, how terrible that that the Europeans, they talk about the Europeans as though it's not them. This is how Edom speaks. Oh, those Europeans, when they came over, they destroyed the native, but they never said, well, we came over, that's what we did. They're speaking of themselves as though it's someone else. So he's talking about the church, that the church stood by to cause these things to happen. He says the church stood by to cause these things to happen. No, the church did not stand by. The church orchestrated it. The church blessed it. The church enacted legal legislation, made laws that allow it to happen. The church did that. Yet he says the church stood by and watched. Sometimes the preachers came right behind the guns. That's what he said. You know, the preachers came behind the military. So this is true. What they did was that their military conquered a province, and then they bring the church behind them. That's what the church did. But the military conquest was orchestrated by the church. It wasn't a standby anything. Now, why do you say that, Brother Jude? I have to go back to Dum Diversas. Here's Dum Diversas. Let me make sure I'm sharing this with you. This is Dum Diversas. This is the legal document that the church in June of 1452. This is present truth, family. Present truth. Because the Pope was just sworn in, right? We have a new Pope, and he's supposedly replying to Ibrahim Traore, and Ibrahim Traore is today trending, right? So this is present truth, and the things that he's talking about. This is the genesis of it. So Dum Diversas is a papal bull. Sorry, it's a papal bull. What is a papal bull? A papal legal document. And by the way, I'm going to hover over it. And if you're looking at your screen, family, you can see here, this is the original document, the legal paper that was done by the Pope. Okay. And it was issued on the 18th of June, 1452. 1452. So in 1452, our ancestors who came over during the slavery, in 1852, our ancestors were in Africa. There was no slavery yet. There was no transatlantic slave trade. In 1452, there was no transatlantic slave trade. So when the Pope, which is Pope Nicholas V, they say this is he. When Pope Nicholas V enacted Dum Diversas, there wasn't any transatlantic slave trade yet. It was the Dum Diversas that made and gave authority for the transatlantic slave trade. So the church did not stand by and watch this thing happen. The church caused it. The church did it. The spiritual arm of Edom sent the military arm of Edom to go get the Hebrew Israelites out of Africa. It says here that the edicts, my screen keeps sliding away, but anyways, the edicts are thus seen to have facilitated the Portuguese slave trade out of West Africa and having legitimized the European colonization, which he's talking about, which he is speaking platitudes to Ibrahim Traore about, that we should not stand by and watch the colonization. We should raise our voices against it. The church caused it. It legitimizes the European colonization of the entire continent of Africa. So this year Pope never said what the church would do and how the church would be different. He never said that. He just continued to talk about what we already know is happening in Africa. And how when a mother sees her child die of hunger, and how when a mother sees, and how when the people have to suffer because their wealth has been siphoned off by multilateral companies. And he just goes on to repeat what we already know, but never tells us what the church would do. Now, if you want my suggestion, the first thing that the church should do is write a papal bull. Write a legal document, a papal bull, rescinding and reversing Dum Diversas. That's the first. If you say that this papacy is going to be different, and the captain asks you, tell me how this papacy will be different, your response should have been, we will issue an executive order, which is what a papal bull is, in legal form to reverse Dum Diversas. Because remember that these powers that be, AFRICOM, for example, where the General Michael Langley clearly says that the purpose of AFRICOM in Africa is for influence and access to maintain global dominance. That's what he said. And the Dum Diversas facilitates that. In fact, it says it right here. I read it last night. It says it right here, that the concept for consigning exclusive spheres of influence to certain nation states was extended to the United States in 1493. So AFRICOM is acting on Dum Diversas. And what I'd like to hear this Pope said is that he will issue a papal bull reversing Dum Diversas, making it illegal for any nation state to use its military to have access and influence in any nation so as to maintain global dominance. I didn't hear that. One more suggestion, Pope. One more suggestion. That in every case and in every city and in every place and in every country around the world that is oppressed, which is almost all countries, which is almost all the countries that they refer to as the pagans. Right? Remember, they said Dum Diversas gives the right of the military, the European military, to conquer all nations that are not Europeans. So, in every one of those countries, Mr. Pope, I would like to see the Catholic Church under the banner of the Catholic Church and the Pontif in every country raise demonstration against all the governments that are in bed with this neo-colonialism, beginning first in Burkina Faso. Beginning first in Burkina Faso. Since you're replying to Ibrahim Traore, right? That's what I'd like to see. That instead of all these people, like on April the 30th, you see all these people who are marching on their own accord. There was no banner of the Catholic Church under which they were marching, and there was no Catholic priest or cardinal in the crowd. Zero. If you claim that this papacy is different, you should have organized that march and be point in that march under the banner of the Roman papacy. And either you yourself or your cardinal next to you should have been in that march. Then I might believe you. But he never said that. And he never said that they will ever do any such thing. If you listen to this entire thing, he never said that the church will ever do any such thing. This is another political speech of a column of word salad that means nothing. And by the way, this is if this is true. But like I said before, I'm commenting on this because I know that this is the nature of the papacy. Exactly what was said here is exactly what the papacy would have said. And I've always done. They did the same thing when all these young boys were raped in the church. Did you ever see them do anything? They should have shut down all the churches. They never did that. They pay off the families to be quiet and they continue with the same thing. And they just move around the popes. I mean, these priests, they never put any of them in prison. This is a satanic organization. And you know what burns the soul out of me is that when you look here in this, when you look here in the in the commentary, people are saying, for example, this person, I'm a Muslim, but think this man is best pope. Long life and good health. God bless you always, Mr. Leo the 14th. Everybody here, high praises to this person that represents nothing. Never before have I heard a pope talk like this. I'm deeply moved, and I'm encouraged myself to continue on the path of justice. Thank you, Leo. This person is from South Africa. I have no clue. I have no clue. But this man has not said anything yet that will support Pan-Africanism. And I think I'm going to leave it there, but this is my take on it, right? And we have to see real things being done. As Captain Traore says, you can't just say you're for Pan-Africanism. You have to do something. Like what? He said, dismantle the old contracts, tear them up and burn them. And then sit and negotiate new contracts where we benefit. That's an actual real action. And don't tell the people, oh, all this here has nothing to do with you. Don't tell that to the people, because you're trying to put the people to sleep. And I'm talking about truth unedited. This has nothing to do with you. Why are you following the algorithms? That's what he said. No, I don't say that. I say we should recognize what is happening in Africa and that we should support it. Right? And also we should know that this democracy is satanic. Right? I know that a lot of us are sold by this democracy nonsense. We believe that it is the best way of rulership, but it is not. It is the worst thing. Democracy is the worst thing next to slavery. In fact, democracy allows slavery to continue under neo colonialism. Sorry, I almost said Leo. Right? It's a bad thing. And it's the reason why also that many of our people, even Hebrew Israelites, don't think that they should support Traore because they say he was a military junta. That is why they don't support it. But if I should come and steal your house by force, have you live in the dog pen in the backyard, and I take your house, and after I've established myself in your house, then I tell you that you need to vote me out. You need to follow the rule of democracy and try to vote me out. When I took you out by force. And then I have my military surrounding the house. And I tell you to vote me out. All the while I'm oppressing you and I'm giving you the scrap from my table and the bones that I've spit out. And I tell you I'll give you some aid. And the aid that I'm giving you is the rotted part of the fruit that I didn't want. And all the time I'm telling you, if you want to get me out of the house, you have to vote me out. But I have soldiers guarding me. This is what democracy is. And it is the reason why every single one of these countries that were colonized till this day, that they claim to have given independence to, have never developed. And Ibrahim Traore is fighting that same scourge in his own country, because that's what they did. And not just in Burkina Faso. In Nigeria, the same thing. And you don't need no conference, and you don't need no public relations awareness for you to know that that is a sin. But what is taking these people so long to understand that they need to share the wealth with the people under whose feet they extract their wealth? Except it is their intention to keep you in that condition. And why? Because they know who you are. That is why. And so the real spiritual meaning of all that is happening is Psalm 83. That this here is the head of Psalm 83, one of them. This is the spiritual arm. And this is all political platitude. No real thing. He's not going to do a thing. So Yahweh is raising us up as the standard. He's raising us up as the standard, his own people, beginning with Ibrahim Traore. And before that, those who led the way before him. But today he is the one, and he is right on time, aptly named Ibrahim. because this is complete nonsense. When I listen to this whole thing, I have to laugh because I didn't want to cry. That's why. All glory and all praises to the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahweh, and the Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai. Shalom, shalom, and shalom, everybody.